Welcome to another episode of the Building Bridges Gateway program. Coming to you from A9 TV, Istanbul. Our goal is to bring peace, love and brotherhood to all mankind, regardless faith, race or nationality. Today we have a very distinguished guest and I let my friend Oktar to introduce him now.
Our distinguished guest today is Rabbi Dr. Elie Abadie. He is the founding rabbi of the Edmund Safra Synagogue, the flagship synagogue of the Edmund Safra synagogues worldwide. There are about 450 member families of the synagogue. Additionally, he serves as director of the Jacob Safra Institute of Sephardic Studies of Yeshiva University, where he also teaches at the Isaac Breuer College and Stern College. He is active member and board member in a wide variety of organizations, including the American College of Gastroenterology, the American Gastroenterological Association and ECHO Medical Advisory Organization, Aleppo Sephardic Heritage Center, Tel Aviv, American Sephardic Federation, Sephardic Rabbinical Council, Sephardic Community Federation, and World Sephardic Educational Center, American Friends of Likud, and American Israel Public Affairs Committee, Rabbinical Alumni Rabbi Isaac Elkanan Theological Seminary, and the Arab Committee on the Midtown Rabbinical Board, Rabbinical Council America. He serves on its executive board and its healthcare proxy committee. Dr. Abadie, Rabbi Abadie, welcome. It's a pleasure and honor to have you.
It's my pleasure. Thank you very much for having me today.
Thank you. And we will have some questions for you. And Bülent will ask a question, and I will ask the first question, actually. And Jerry, you're welcome also. It's a pleasure.
Yes.
It's a pleasure to see you again.
Thank you very much. Salam.
Alaikum salam. Dear Rabbi Abadie, what are your opinions toward Arab Awakening that has been transpiring in the Middle East? How do you view its consequences in Israel? And do you have any hope for the progress of the Arab Awakening? And how do you see the future?
Well, of course, we would love to see the democratization of Arab societies and Arab countries. And that is really the right and the wish of all humankind all over the world to have self-determination and decide the path of life for the future. Every nation has the right to do so, and certainly the wish of us that they could do it. However, the Arab awakening that I see seems to be a popular awakening, but I don't see much of a democratic changes in those countries. As we have seen already in Egypt, in Tunisia, what's happening in Syria, I am concerned and afraid that those popular movements are movements for a one-time democratic election and yet another dictatorship of sort. I don't see yet a full democratization of those societies. So we are basically waiting to see if indeed all those countries who are rebelling against their leaders are going to become really democratic countries as we understand democracy in Europe and in the Western world.
Actually, definitely, we agree with you. And we have the same wish toward a more democracy and freedom of thought and freedom of worship in these countries. But that has to be established only with the change of the mentality, with the change of radicalism and bigotry, which is existing in these countries. You're right.
That is correct. I mean, if you look at the history of the Muslim world for the last 1400 years, it has been always a cyclical history, in which most of the time they were ruled by one leader, dictatorship, or later on presidents for life, or presidents for many decades. And every 30 to 40 years there is a rebellion against that leadership, and that leadership changes. Sometimes the leadership is a benevolent leadership in which the leader is very good to his people, and some other times, unfortunately, that leadership is not very benevolent to their people, and they become tyrants. And we have seen it, and we have seen it in the past, we have seen it in the recent past, also in the last century, and now seeing it with our own eyes. That we do hope, however, that these changes that we are seeing are going to benefit the Arab people in those countries. that they will really see democratization of their societies. Although, again, I doubt it. From what I have seen so far, the results, as I said, in those countries that have had already their revolutions, we have seen the ascendance of parties that are very much doctrinaire parties, parties that they will take away some freedoms of certain elements of society. And like I said, we have to move with caution to see as to what kind of societies they're going to make.
Yeah, because it is not an easy change, because Marxist mentality has been prevailing in these countries. Whenever we look in, for example, Iraq, in Afghanistan, in Tunisia, in Jordan, in Egypt, Nasser's time, in the Palestine at the George Habash time, Marxist mentality, the Ba'ath Party mentality, also Arab socialism, Marxism, has been prevailing, and so the mentality has changed. Jerry, can we have your comment on that, please?
Sure. I agree with, along with you guys, I agree with Rabbi Abadie. There are a lot of changes that need to take place in Egypt and Syria and even in Palestine. There's a lot of work that needs to be done to see the democratic change. But one thing we have to keep in mind is the length of time that these places have been dictatorial governments. Not only do the people of the areas need to be aware of what democratic is, but how to make that change happen, as well as those in government. When we look at Egypt and even in Libya, when we have people that are of the old regime still working in government, they're still used to working in the dictatorial sense. So a lot of, I think, I hate to use the term re-education, but I think it fits in the fact that so many people are used to, that they may not like, but they're used to the dictatorial way that the governments has worked in those countries. So I think a lot of change it's going to take a lot of time and a lot of effort to get these to change when you look at the amount of time that they've been the sort of governments that they are. As far as the consequences to Israel, I think that if we can get and inshallah it will happen, a constitutional government in place where when it comes to Israel, I think there will be a wide opening of communication and trade and a lot more of an easy atmosphere all throughout that area if and when the Constitution and a democratic society does get in place there. The one thing that concerns me there, like I said, is that the length of time and the members of those governments that were in the old regimes. Whether it takes a vote, public vote, to get those members changed out to somebody else, or to at least get enough people in that are seeing the democratic way, that are willing to go that route. So I think the biggest problems, and I think we see that today, the biggest problems we've had is to get the members of either parliament or the high courts to see things in a democratic way rather than in the old way of a dictatorial way.